Hi there, Dr. Andy Kahn here from RSU22. I received a request to complete a handful of videos for you folks to provide some support and information to help us manage the impact of COVID-19. Now, I'm going to speak completely frankly here. So many of us have been blindsided, shocked, and surprised by the impact of COVID-19. I think many of us back in March thought we would be managing a several week or maybe a month or so impact of trying to stay safe from this virus and its impact. What we found, unfortunately, for so many of us is that it has altered the landscape of our lives across the world. So many of us have had changes or loss of our jobs, alterations to our household structures, and above all else in schools, the disruption and alteration of all that we do within our schools. Here on RSU22, our children have moved to a hybrid schedule with obviously the choice to work remotely. So much of what our teachers have been asked to do is within a day's notice or a couple of days' notice to completely alter the way that they're delivering instruction to our kids. Simultaneously, our families have been cast into circumstances where we've had to find childcare. In some cases, had to leave our jobs or have our jobs shut down around us, and to figure out how to manage our finances, our household stability, our safety, and then facilitating our children's ability to access their education. Now, I can tell you as a person who's not a teacher, this situation has been extremely challenging. I remember back in March talking to some teachers and hearing people generate this great enthusiasm and uttering the phrase that always gets me, hey, you got this. And my response at that time was, you don't got this. We don't even know what this is. We know that everything's changed, and so few people have had jobs that have required such a massive alteration to their job structure as teachers. And certainly when we think about teachers, teachers in so many ways are our heroes. Back in April and May, people were really celebrating teachers and putting out tons of positive messages. And I think what we realized is our teachers provide so much of the combination of education and support, and in some cases for our young kids, safe childcare. We'll just be honest. The problem is that as so many of us have been stressed and fatigued by the length of the COVID-19 pandemic impact, what we found is that we're coping less and less well. Teachers are finding themselves perpetually overwhelmed, finding their time from the time they awake until the time they go to bed, and sometimes really late at night, focusing on taking care of their kids, getting lesson plans together, trying to connect information with people who maybe aren't attending their sessions or aren't coming to school. And so part of the structure of these videos is really going to be to talk about how do we improve our coping and our ability to navigate this time. It's important for people to realize that as teachers, as parents, as educators, what we have to think about is that we are human beings first. As human beings who have children and who have families and who have jobs, we are experiencing stressors at such a foundational level. Then you add to that factor as teachers, what you're being asked to do in a way that you've never been trained for. And the worry that you have in caring for your kids and delivering the quality of education that you're accustomed to. What we have to understand during this time is our first strategy is we have to be kind and forgiving to ourselves. We have to understand that our previous expectations are not realistic during this time of COVID-19. I understand that the educational targets and designs that we have in place through our systems remain pretty well unchanged. But that doesn't mean our expectations of how this is going to be executed and what the outcomes are going to be similar. I perpetually ask teachers to forgive themselves for what is challenging for them, to acknowledge the fact that their targets and expectations are going to be fluid. And in the moment and in the day-to-day, it's so important to seek support and find ways to rebuild and reconnect with your support systems. When you receive the dozens of emails a week about self-care, about how much people care about you, the reality is we are in charge of our own outcomes. We are in charge of how we take care of ourselves and our families. So over the coming weeks, we're going to have videos where people are going to engage in question and answer. We're going to talk about things like establishing structure, establishing routines and rituals that can help you recreate the foundations of what we had before COVID-19 so that we can navigate and survive this with some ability to live our lives. I have to emphasize to you folks that as we experience pandemic fatigue, as we tire in our desire to live with the restrictions that are around us, I encourage you, please, please, please continue to follow the restrictions that are placed on us. Wear your masks, keep your distances where you can. It is so important for our community's well-being that we make our best efforts to continue this and take this process to its appropriate endpoint. We need to find ways to support each other, creating some strategies together, connecting, and finding ways to communicate how we're doing so that we can be healthy and survive this. I look forward to talking to you folks in the coming weeks and look forward to getting some questions sent to you folks via email. Thank you so much.